Welcome to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know the faces, stories, and lives that make up our community. I'm Ryan Harding, and I started this podcast as a way for us all to connect with the people we live alongside. Growing up in a small town, I learned that connections go beyond blood. They're built through shared experiences, friendships, and the moments we celebrate together. Each week, we'll sit down with someone new from Lehi to share their unique story, their passions, and what they love most about living here. So whether you've been here for years or just arrived, join us as we deepen our roots and reach out to our branches one story at a time. All right, welcome Mike Southwick to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know people of Lehi, right? And obviously you're a resident here of Lehi and doing a lot of good things. Let's start with kind of a background of you, get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
You know, from Lehi originally, how long you been here? Give me a little background there.
I have lived in Lehi all my life.
All your life, okay.
Yep, other than 2 years when I served an LDS mission. So,
okay, yeah.
Yep, so I've been here all my life.
Okay. And so family here and stuff like that too?
Family, actually, we have 6 sons.
Okay.
And they all actually live here in Lehi.
Oh, they do? Okay,
So
wow.
we're pretty lucky.
That is pretty lucky. That doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't.
Especially in Lehi. I mean, maybe like northern Utah County or something, but okay.
Yep, but they've all stayed right here in Lehi.
Okay.
So it's been good.
That's hey, count yourself blessed there.
That's for sure.
And tell me, you know, career-wise, what did you end up doing there?
I was an electrical contractor.
Okay.
For probably about 35 years.
Okay.
And then sold electrical equipment.
Okay.
Probably the last 10 years that I worked.
Okay.
So, and then I've invested in real estate, so I have that
yeah.
keeps me busy too.
Yeah,
so.
good. Well, and especially in Lehi, that's a good place to invest.
Hey, that's for sure. That's
So,
for sure.
That's good.
So,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me, so you currently are serving on the city council?
No. I got off about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
I served for 12 years.
For 12 years, okay.
And
Okay.
I just decided, okay, I think it's time.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So let somebody else take a time and go with it. But it was a good experience. Really good.
Yeah, tell me, so before we leave that then, so tell me, you know, any things you're proud of, you know, from that, any, you know, kind of highlights from that time that you know, any recollections from that time that you can...
Yeah. When you're on the city council, you're put over certain things within the city.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, I was over the museum, actually helped with the historical and archives.
Yeah.
And also the historical preservation committee.
Okay.
And so worked with that. And I've always been one that feels like, hey, we need to keep our history alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And keep it going and just try to do whatever we can to keep that in check with, especially those things that are in the past, and you know, so the citizens of Lehi and others could be informed on it and also be able to learn from it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed working with that. In fact, I'm still doing, basically all 3. They asked me to stay with a couple, and then I said, well, I'll stay with the other one for a while, and so I've been doing that since a year and a half that I've got off the council.
Okay.
So, and I guess a lot of it comes from even my dad.
Yeah.
Because he said, I mean, we grew up here in Lehi. As I mentioned, I've been here all my life.
Yeah.
But he always said, if you're going to live in a place, serve within the place that you live.
I like that.
And we just kind of grew up with that.
Yeah.
So, and he did the same. So.
Did he serve, what kind of things did he do?
He was a volunteer fireman.
Okay.
And then he was also on the rodeo committee.
Okay.
And was also a president at one time.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
So following in Dad's footsteps.
Yep. So kind of followed some of those things.
Yeah.
And served there, and so. But I think that's really where it all kind of came from.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to live in a place, I mean, there's too many people that complain about everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And he says you don't have a right to complain either until you get in and do something.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not actually contributing, right? You're not making it better.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly. So.
Well, and you know, you've been here your whole life. So, and this is a broad question, but I'll let you choose what you want to answer on it. But how has Lehi changed in that period of time for you?
I mean, actually, when I was growing up, there was 6,500 people here in Lehi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and now it's up to 87,000 people, and still growing.
Yeah.
And will.
Yeah.
I'm sure. People just like the feel of it and like to come here too.
Yeah.
So it has changed quite a bit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It brings a lot of good people in, and
yeah.
So get to know them and associate with them, and hopefully they'll want to serve also.
Sure. And keep making Lehi better.
Yep.
So any tell me some of the hard things about serving on that city council. What were some of the challenges that you faced, I guess, with that job? I mean, I'm sure it's not always
I think the biggest challenge is no matter what you do, half the people aren't going to like what you do.
Sure.
Because, somebody's got to like it and somebody doesn't. And so I think that's the hardest thing with the council is just looking at everything and going over everything that you're, saying yes to or no to, and deciding, okay, is this something that is better for the city, and is this going to be all right?
Sure.
And you're always going to make someone upset and unhappy.
Sure.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You can't please everybody.
No, you can't please, no. Any examples from that? Anything that you can think of specifically on that?
Maybe not right off, but there was a lot of times people that were friends and associates that came in and wanted to do something, and then they said, well, you can't do this,
Yeah.
Still friends, but they, they're going, hey, you're supposed to help me out here.
Yeah, we're buddies. Come on. Yeah.
Yep. But hey, you have to do what you feel like is best for the city.
Yeah.
And for the citizens here.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, it's one of those jobs that you're able to do a lot of good, but it is hard because you're in that spotlight and people see, and especially now with social media, people can critique you right online, right? You know, and stuff.
That's for sure.
And so, which for better or for worse, I guess, right?
And that we started the online council, or city councils, probably after I'd been in about 2 or 3 years. So it's been going online for about 10 years. And at first I thought, I don't know if I like this, but, it was all right.
Sure.
So,
Well, okay. So one of your things that you're doing, I assume still, is the rodeo committee, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So how did you get that position initially?
Okay. So basically, I've been on the rodeo committee since I was 22 years old.
Okay.
So almost 50 years.
Yeah.
48 years I've been on the committee.
Okay.
And served in different. So what that is with the rodeo, there are directors, and then there's a president, vice president, and secretary.
Okay.
So each one of the directors are over a certain aspect of the rodeo.
Okay.
And so I was on one of those committees for a lot of years, and then probably 25 years ago, the directors, if somebody quits as a director, then the other directors will vote somebody in, and I was voted in to be a director.
Okay.
And then actually Stan Lewis was the president for quite a few years, and I was his vice president, and then when he left, I went in, they voted me in that position as president.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've been doing that for, 2-3 years?
Okay.
So that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah. So I've been involved for a lot. I mean, so just kind of the gradual progression, I guess, of being in there so long, right?
Being in there so long and serving.
Yeah.
So I can remember when I was younger, and my dad's, when he was one of the directors, his job was to put the pennants down Main Street and make sure everything, kind of the advertising.
Yeah.
And I'd go with him when I was young and hang them, and just came from there. And then our family just loved the rodeo and the, the celebration. And so I'm just trying to keep that alive and keep that going.
And how much time goes into the rodeo? I mean, it's a 3-day, 4-day event?
4-day now.
4-day.
Last year was the first year that we've gone 4 years.
Okay.
Well, I guess there was another time, we figure maybe 40 years ago, that they went 4 nights.
It's been a while.
But it's been a while.
Okay.
And they said they just decided it was too much work.
Sure.
But I felt like we needed to go 4 nights because the citizens of Lehi weren't able to get tickets.
Yeah.
And they still can't. I mean, we're still selling out even at 4 nights.
Yeah.
So, but...
And so how much time goes into that?
Usually, so we meet monthly, and then, it's always the last full week of June, the celebration is, with the rodeo and the parades and everything.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that goes on from about the middle of May till the rodeo, that you're putting in quite a bit more time, getting the grounds ready, doing things that we have to do there. But we usually meet every month from January till June, and then we meet again starting in September.
Wow.
Every month.
And what goes into those meetings?
Talk about what has been good, what we want to change, if anything. Now this year we are going to have the Cowboy Channel come, and that's something that's new.
Okay.
And also
to video it?
Yes, video it.
Yeah.
And then they also, which is a good thing, they also pay help pay for some of the purse on the cowboys.
Oh,
so
sure.
it makes it,
Okay.
a little nicer for those that are
Sure.
there at the rodeo and coming because they can make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be good.
Well,
But that's the first year we're going to be doing this.
So bigger draw for people to come, maybe then? I mean, I guess.
Come, and I think it might be good too, where we can't have everybody come. They'll be able to watch it.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So it may not be, this first few years may not be live,
Okay.
but then they'll be able to see, when they videoed it and what they did, and then later on on the Cowboy Channel. So.
And now, talk to me a little bit about how is the rodeo self-sufficient, or what? Tell me financially where it's at, I guess.
So we're nonprofit.
Okay.
I mean, not anybody that serves on the committees anywhere makes any money.
Okay.
It's just all service. But we just make it from the ticket sales, from sponsors. There's a lot. We have one of the directors, and actually he's vice president too at this time, but he goes out and gets sponsors. Okay. And so we get money that way, and then we're able to pay the purse and pay for the cowboys that come and cowgirls that come perform and do that. So
and talk to me about advertising and tell me if I'm wrong, but I've heard once that there's a lot of volunteer and stuff to try to keep kind of more alcohol or different things like that. Family friendly, right? Yeah. Okay.
There's two things to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is to keep it more family friendly.
Okay.
And so we have actually LDS wards come and they'll work in the concessions. So, but the money that's made from the concessions then goes back to the wards that put floats in the parade and pays for those floats. Okay. So this last year, it's been anywhere from about $500 to $600, but everything's gone up so much that we upped it this last year to $1,000 that they would be able to use or have to put, to do their float. And that's been a tradition as long as I've been alive, and before that, because I can remember my mom saying that each ward, when Lehi was smaller, would do 3 or 4 floats. So but now you're lucky, you don't have that many or don't want that many in. There's 20 stakes here in Lehi now, so.
But so the money from the concessions goes to help pay for the floats then.
Yep.
And stuff. Okay.
So that's kind of, it's separate. It's not separate from the rodeo, but I mean, it's part of the rodeo, but the concession money goes to pay for those floats that are put in the parade. So
when you talk about, you're on the rodeo committee, does that include the parade then? I mean, or is it just because when I think of rodeo, I think of the actual grounds and that 4-day event, right?
Yes.
But are you in charge of more than just that then, I guess? No.
So there's a committee for the rodeo.
Okay.
And then the city does the parades and activities that they do during the week.
Okay.
So they're in charge of that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just the concession money then goes to kind of help that. So that's something they're doing voluntarily, I guess. You wouldn't necessarily have to do that, I guess, but it's because the city. Okay.
And that's kind of been a tradition, like I say, for years.
Yeah.
That the money goes back in to pay for those floats that are put in the parade.
Okay.
The miniature floats.
Sure.
So, because I mean, there's a lot of parades around, but a lot. In fact, I'm not sure of many that have a miniature float parade. Sure. So we've been trying to keep that tradition up.
Yeah.
And it gets hard because there's so many things going on, and it's all service.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all people just donating their time and to do it and to keep those things alive.
Are you able, to get enough people to help on these events? Are you seeing, has that changed? I mean, obviously we have a lot of people, but you also get, sometimes with bigger cities, sometimes it's less community driven, I guess, or I don't know. Tell me your thoughts on that, I guess.
We have seen a difference.
Okay.
I mean, in years. In fact, I've been, as the director, was over the concessions and volunteers, getting the volunteers. And it takes about 30 volunteers a night for the concessions, for the 4 different concessions. So you got about 120 people that are volunteering every night to do the concessions.
Wow.
And so it does. And I think people coming in are going, why are we having to help with this?
Sure.
Or what do we get out of this? Do we get a rodeo ticket? And we're going, no. You can have a hamburger, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so we have seen, and I think it's just a matter of educating people. and letting them know that, hey, this is a service, and the reason we're doing this is to keep it family friendly and also to pay for those floats that are put in.
Do you see it continuing that way, or have you guys talked about like alternatives, on that area?
Maybe a little, because it does get a little harder on some of these, getting enough people to do it. But it almost seems if they do it once, they want to do it again. Sure. I mean, it's almost like just kind of a camaraderie that they get, and they enjoy doing it. And we've had a lot of them say, well, hey, put us back on this. We'd like to do it.
Sure.
So.
Okay. So so it seems like it's working then, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, if you're saying.
So far.
Yeah.
We've had a few that have kind of said, well, couldn't get enough volunteers, and we've had to go out and look for some more just to be able to do that. But it seems to work out pretty good.
So this has been going on for a long time.
As far as I remember, and even further.
So tell me, how has it evolved over the years, or is it largely the same as it once was?
A lot of the same, but bigger.
Okay.
I mean, just because we've done things with the grounds to make more seats, put new bleachers in to add more seats to the bleachers, so it's just got bigger that way. You have to, it's kind of an entertainment thing too, because you have to entertain people.
Totally.
Not just the rodeo. So that's why we've had motorcycle acts, we have, clown acts, things that they're coming. This year we are doing a drone show, right?
That'll be cool. This
will be the first year for this.
Yeah.
So, but that will be, something that we're doing this, and hopefully it'll work out and we can keep doing that. So it does. There are things that come out of it that we feel like, okay, we need to change this, or we need to make this better. Let's see what we can do. And that's kind of what a lot of our meetings are about.
Is how do we make this better?
How do we make this better, and how do we keep people wanting to come to it?
Yeah. Because does it sell out every year?
It does. It has not always.
Okay.
But the last maybe 4 or 5 years, it's sold out. And usually you could get tickets 2 weeks before, but usually now, the last few years, it's been sold out by March.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to?
I think just people enjoying it and wanting to come, and it's kind of a family thing.
Yeah.
And so even people that are out of town that grew up with the rodeo will come back to it.
Yeah.
And their family will come back to it, and I think that's just there's a lot of families that will just plan on it every year and come, and then other people that have moved in and think, hey, give it a try, and so, but it.
How does it compare to other rodeos in the state?
Well, obviously we're a little prejudiced. We think it's one of the best.
Sure,
but,
of course.
But it does. I mean, it compares with some of the others. There's a lot of others that even go all week, and obviously are able to get more people to come and can do bigger things.
Yeah.
But we feel like I doubt we'll ever go more than 4 nights, but it took a little bit to the committee to go 4 nights just because it's a lot of work. Everybody puts in a lot of work to make this. So it's not just the week of the rodeo. There's a lot that's done beforehand. Yeah. So, but
any I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Any memorable events, any memorable moments, I guess, from this event? Things where you're like, oh, that was really cool, or something that stood out to you over those 22 years? I
don't know if it's memorable events. I mean, there's a lot of good acts and a lot of things that we've seen and thought, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
But I think more so it's the association you have with the sponsors, with the rodeo personnel that are bringing in the cattle and bringing in the animals, and it's the association with them, I think, is what's really memorable. It's something that you can just think about and enjoy.
Yeah. Those relationships that you've created.
Relationships.
Yeah.
But the rodeo it's almost like it's, Christmas again, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So going into that, what impact do you think the rodeo has on Lehi? Do you think that's, what's the case for continuing to do this, I guess,
I think because the people are saying we want this. We wouldn't be sold out if they didn't,
Fair point.
If they didn't want that, then they would. And I think it's just a tradition that people go and enjoy, not just the rodeo, but the parades and the other activities that they have during that week. But it's just a celebration that people get together and enjoy that, and that opportunity to get together and celebrating Lehi.
Does the rodeo grounds get used for anything else?
Not much. It does some. We were getting quite a bit of people that wanted to use it, and so we had to cut it. We had to kind of stipulate, okay, this has to be animal related, because they wanted to use it for some other things, but there was a lot. Well, we've had certain things in there and had to fix things, and so we just decided to keep it animal. So there are some 4-H groups that come in. That way, when we have the queen contest for the royalty for the rodeo, they're doing that. That was just this last Saturday. So there are some things that are being done, but it basically is animal related is what we're trying to keep that to.
Okay.
So
just because you're saying when other groups sometimes use it, for like, I don't know, a concert, I guess, or, what other things, I guess, would, like, it just doesn't always go as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So we just decided let's keep it so that it's just animal related. We have let some of the high schools do some dances in there. Yeah. And we thought, hey, let's let that happen.
I know I've attended a girls' powder puff football thing there too.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
That's okay.
So those type of things we feel like are good for the community, and we're okay with that.
Sure.
It was just some of these bigger commercial things that wanted to come in that we just felt like, hey, let's just keep this with the animal related.
Okay.
So,
any plans for improvement? On the like to any putting some money back into it?
Yes. Actually, Trax is putting in another line.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to affect the rodeo grounds.
Okay.
Because they own about 15 feet of the ground that the rodeo grounds is on.
Oh.
12 to 15.
Okay.
They said we don't need it all, and we said this year, well, take it because we don't want to have to go through this again.
Yeah.
So we are having to change some things on the east end.
Okay.
Because the track is going to be on the west side of all of the other two tracks, and so it comes in closer to the rodeo grounds. But we are going to have to redo a restroom.
Okay.
And then we're going to try to put in some new bleachers on the east end, so we'll have more seats there. And then we have to do a new walkway that will, because that will be impacted by the train coming through, the tracks coming through.
Overall, will it be better for the thing?
I think it will.
Okay.
I think it will.
So it's okay.
Because the one restroom that we have to replace is quite old.
Okay.
And so it'll make that a lot nicer, and it will make it so that we can actually add. I think we figured about 350 more seats just in that end.
Yeah.
And it will make it better.
Okay.
We'll cut down a few things like the corrals and the roping area, but not enough that it will impact much. So, so we've been lucky that way. And they're planning on starting that right after the 2026 rodeo. So, so another year before they're actually going to start.
And are they having to buy some land from you, or
there is the land is actually the city's.
Okay.
So the city owns the land, but there is a corner. It's not much, but it's a corner that they're going to have to try to get.
Sure.
So that they can run the track.
Okay.
And do what they need to do and have the distance for the.
Okay.
From that.
And so that's where maybe some of the money's coming from to.
Hopefully we get some there. We may have to have people come and donate some things, and because we've done that. There's been most of the things we've done have been donated, especially donated labor.
Okay.
Maybe not so much the materials and things, but donated labor to do a lot of the stuff that's been done down there.
Okay. And on that note, so if someone wants to participate, be a volunteer, I mean, you mentioned the different, wards and stakes, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What if those people that are not members of that church, or how do people volunteer if they want to volunteer and they want to be a part of this? This event.
They could just get hold of any one of the directors and say, hey, is there something that I can do? And we have done that and invited people to serve on the committees because we're always looking for people there.
Okay.
And we don't just specifically say it's the LDS Church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We would like anybody to come and serve and be with us.
Yeah.
We welcome anybody. It takes about 250 more volunteers just to run like the parking, the
concessions.
The concessions is different. That's even different. That's about 120 a night.
Okay.
And then this is about the 250 over the 4 nights of the rodeo that we have to have.
That's just taking tickets, you're saying, like checking people in?
Taking tickets.
Okay. Because that's all volunteer.
It is. It's all volunteer.
Wow.
So it does. It takes a lot of people. And we appreciate everybody that volunteers. So, and a lot will come back and say, hey, I want to do this again.
Sure.
So we say, hey, you're more than welcome to. Because we couldn't do it without you.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it without you.
Wow.
So
Okay. Well, so contacting you guys, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And they can find your contact information on...
Just on the website of the rodeo, Lehi Roundup Rodeo.
Okay.
So...
Okay. Do you coordinate a lot with city officials, on, obviously, they're so that Roundup Week, right? I mean, is what this is part of, right? So do you coordinate with the city officials on the different things that they're doing too and stuff like that, I guess?
Yes. Usually the city will have a meeting the end of February.
Okay.
And we kind of were invited. I usually go to that meeting and find out what they're doing. We let them know what the rodeo is doing and the times, and then we kind of work together on that. And especially we work with them with the floats, as I mentioned.
Sure.
Because that money comes back to pay those wards.
Yeah.
But they do work with the floats on their side. So.
Anything significant, as far as anything you've learned by being the president, of the rodeo and stuff like that? Anything, you had to use your strong leadership skills, I guess, to do this, but anything you've learned from managing that many people and coordinating all those different things?
No, I mean, just other than it takes a lot to do it.
Yeah.
And we appreciate, those that come out. And it, so we usually send that out, and then they will come to a meeting and find out, and they can kind of pick what they want to do. And we have them meet with the director over that, and then they just get a few minutes to tell them what they'll need to do the nights of the rodeo. But I think it's been great. I think the biggest thing is that we've gone from 3 nights to 4 nights.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it does take a lot more work to put another night on.
Yeah.
But it's been good, and we've been able to do that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things recently, or since I was made president.
Yeah.
So, and the directors have been on board with it and say, yeah, let's go for it. We know that we need to do it just because of the demand for the rodeo.
What's I don't know if you know this stat, but what's the average time that somebody serves on one of those director committee roles? I mean, do you have a pretty familiar group where you're like, hey, I've known these guys or is there a lot of turnover, I guess?
No, there isn't a lot of turnover.
Okay.
Usually, if you're called as a director, there may be a little more turnover with those that serve under the directors,
Okay.
that are for the committee members. A little bit more turnover, but once you're a director, it seems like you stay till, just till you feel like, I can't do this anymore.
Sure. Okay.
It's kind of the way that it's been.
Okay.
Most people have stayed with that once you're a director and I think it's because just of the camaraderie, what we're doing is a good thing for Lehi, and it's a good celebration.
Good. Well, hey, my family has been to the rodeo many times. I think we actually do have tickets. Last year we didn't go because we didn't get tickets. So we did get tickets this year, so we are going. And that's cool about the drone show. That'll be actually good to see too. I like the variety. I mean, I enjoy the rodeo, but I enjoy the motorcycle too, and I think the drone will be good too. So I do like the variety. Just speaking for myself.
Well, and not everybody is rodeo fans.
Yes.
So you have to kind of do some other things to help that out too, so that they want to go.
Well, that's why I say I compliment you on that, because you want to still be a part of the community. You want to be, because this is a big event. This is important, right? It's part of that Lehi rodeo thing. But yeah, maybe horses or bulls aren't your thing, right?
Yeah.
But hey, okay, still come because there's still other events and stuff. I like that.
Yeah. So we try to do that so that people can be entertained, and there's more than just the rodeo.
Yeah, love that. Well, fast forward 10, 20 years from now, do you still see any long-term vision you see for this, or just kind of continuing to?
I think basically just kind of continue and keeping the traditions going, and those things that have made it what it is today. Yeah. So.
And why, I guess to kind of in closing here, why do you think that tradition? Because sometimes traditions can be, why are we doing this? Kind of thing. Yep. So why do you think this tradition is important? Why continue this? I mean, what's the case for doing this still?
Basically, I think to get the people together in the city and to have a celebration that everyone enjoys and can come together and enjoy that together. And I think that's the biggest thing with it, and why we keep doing this is for the people and the citizens here in Lehi. Is to keep that tradition alive so that they can join in if they haven't, and or if they're newcomers to the area, but something that they can look forward to in the city.
Great. Anything we didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we've kind of pretty well covered.
We kind of nailed it all, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Well, awesome. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and now you got me excited. It's starting to warm up. So basically, it's almost June, right?
Yep, yep. It's not far away.
Not far away.
A couple more months, and we'll be there with the celebration and the rodeo.
We'll be doing it. Okay.
And I guess basically just tell people, get your tickets early.
Yes.
You know, they go on the first of the year. First
like,
every
like
year.
January
So
or
January, yep.
It is January, okay.
You can get them midnight on, you know.
Sure.
So New Year's Eve and do it. But
okay. And they are all sold out.
They are. Well, there will be a few more tickets
Okay.
that will come available probably the first or second week in June.
Okay.
We keep some of those out for sponsors.
Okay.
And then when we find out, okay, we've got a few or we've got some that we can put back, then they'll go back on.
Okay.
You know, it's not an excessive amount, but
Sure.
there is some that if people haven't got them, they could get them the first week or so in June.
Okay.
So just keep watching, and when those go back out, and as soon as we find out what sponsors we have and need to fulfill their sponsorships.
Okay. Great.
So,
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. And I think, like I said, you got me excited now for the summer.
hey, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for joining us on Roots and Branches of Lehi. I hope today's story helped you feel a little more connected to the people who make up our community. Remember, every person here has a unique story, and together, we're what makes Lehi feel like home. If you know someone who would be a great fit for this podcast, please fill out the form in the show notes so we can reach out and schedule an interview. We'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Work Harding Home Mortgage Team and Play Harding Nightly Vacation Rentals, for supporting this show and helping us bring our community closer together. Until next time, keep growing those roots and reaching out to your branches. Take care.